Hi, welcome to Drama Means. We're talking about the 2023 Japanese drama, My Second Aoharu. Today, drama means unexpected bonds, drama means friends to lovers, and drama means as many facial expressions as possible.
So for a little bit of a summary, after a young woman's opportunity to go to college is literally upended by a luckless accident, a separate but equally bizarre accident gives her a second chance at university life nearly a decade later. But will her classmates, housemates, and the charming young man she can't stop thinking about ever accept her as one of their own?
So I wanted to watch this because of Michieda. He was in My Love Mix-Up, which was a Japanese BL, I think a couple years ago. And I wanted to watch it because he's in it. And when it started and Sayako was so over the top, and it was just like that crazy like humor, it kind of was like, oh, what are we getting ourselves into? But yeah, I actually started to enjoy it once it kind of mellowed out a little bit.
Well, it's not shy at the very beginning with how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, and it's that very like Japanese style humor, like kind of slapsticky, very over the top, and I mean it definitely let you know that it was gonna be a comedy.
Yeah, definitely they were gonna highlight that aspect of it. It wasn't just going to become this, coming of age, second, chance at life kind of thing. Like that's all part of it, but it definitely was going to be emphasizing the comedic moments. But what I will say is that over the course of the show, Sayako kind of outshines everyone, including your boy. She's so good.
She's so good. And
she's so charming. Oh, yes.
She's like adorable and like her personality is great. And it kind of gets to the point. Yes, she's like over the top. Yes, like she has all kinds of different facial expressions and they're all lovable. At first I wasn't sure if I was gonna like how I was gonna feel with this over the topness, but it gets grounded and like it's just like she wears all her emotions on her face and very like vocal about exactly how she feels, which is kind of nice because she's so direct. Whatever she's thinking, she just says it out loud. She doesn't get offended and like hurt if you say things to her, but then she's gonna be like, how could you be so mean? Like never like hiding anything. And it just feels so refreshing to like have a character like that because I'm so sick of like characters that never like say what they're thinking and like I don't know. There's so many fake characters too, and she just felt so real and so like I really wish that she was in my life and like she was a friend of mine.
Yeah, she's just kind of a goofball, but then can be serious, like responsible, and all these different things that felt so relatable. And you just wanted to hang out with her. Like I found in every scene, there was never a moment where they kind of, I hate using the term jump the shark, but like did something that kind of went back on who her character was. She always, in every situation, gave us the character. And it was honest, and it was tone correct, and it was funny sometimes, and it was poignant other times, and just, man, it was like just a warm blanket to cuddle in. I was like, I want to watch this character. From, yes, the beginning was a little over the top, but from pretty much jump, I'm like, yeah, no, I will spend my time with this character.
It's just really nice to watch when a character is so sincere and her character is like, she has her moments where she's not confident in herself and she, doesn't have the motivation to want to do certain things, like, to move on and have the ambition to like continue her education, even though she's like always wanted it. But like she's just been so true, you know, like with her friends, and then like, you know, and then meeting Taku, kind of having that revelation of like, hey, I can just go to college. Why is it so difficult? Kind of thing. And then when she like meets Marin and like tries to help her, it just comes from such like a sincere place. You know, some people, it kind of feels like, oh, they're being nice, or they're helping like the needy, you know, like, but just to show that they're being nice.
Well, yeah, it's the virtue signaling. It's, you know, oh, look at what a good person I am. I hope someone notices how good I am. But she never had an angle.
I wish I had met this character.
I will also say, to give him some credit, I think when we first meet Taku, I was really worried they were going to go full brooding with him. Like tortured soul, brooding youngster, just I don't talk, I don't interact, I'm too cool for school in every scene. Because that's kind of how he is when she meets him the first time. And if you look really closely in scenes, even at the very, very beginning, he's kind of like in the background smiling and joking with his friends. It was only her he was a little bit standoffish with. And it was definitely like he was unsure of who she was and what her deal was. And like, he was like, oh, you're here. And so it wasn't a brooding, dark character that I feel like I was like, oh, please tell me that's not where they're going. And again, I'm really glad they didn't, because he felt like a real person. He just felt like, yeah, he was moody sometimes and he was quiet other times and he keeps to himself. And other times he's just joking with his friends like a college kid and drinking beer around the campfire. And they let him enjoy himself and he didn't have to be ultra serious, even though there were parts of his character that needed to be that way.
Yeah, I was really also worried that he was going to be that tsundere character where he has that stoic face and then, you know, very cold and hard to, like, get close to. And that demeanor.
And it just keeps everything bottled in, and then the female protagonist has to chip away at his hardened shell to get him to open up and be a real boy. And it's like, I didn't want to see that.
Yeah, because I'm so sick of those characters, and I don't really know why, like, every single drama has that character.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's not attractive.
No, and I get tired of that. And I get it, that, like, men don't have emotions. You must draw their emotions out of them, because men don't... Shut up. Like, just... Men are humans, women are humans, like... We all have emotions. Sometimes we wear them on our sleeve. Sometimes we get angry. Sometimes we get upset. Sometimes we're happy. But this idea that, like, I'm a wooden block that you must carve a man out of, I don't really have any interest watching that character. And so as soon as I started watching him interact with his friends, I was like, oh, that's not who he is. That's who he is to her a little bit.
Only, like, a really short snippet of a time where it's like that. Once she moves into the house, like, she's one of their own.
Well, you know why he's cold to her at the beginning. Because she said her favorite architect was his dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, great. Another fangirl who worships my stupid dad. And, like, that was his first impression of her. So I totally get him kind of being like, ugh, you know, with her. But then, again, it softens very, very quickly, and she becomes one of the group.
Yeah. I think it was Ryu that, like, kind of said when he first got into that house, like, everyone just treated him right off the bat as, like, one of their own once he came into the home, right? So it was just, like, it was so nice to see this, like, kind of ragtag team, you know, like, everyone's kind of off the beaten path, but come together and they're just so, like, comforting and warm. And it's just, honestly, when you first go into someone's home, a lot of times they're a little standoffish and they don't really know how to treat you and you don't know how to behave. But in this case, it just felt so like, oh, we're family, like, right off the bat. And it's so nice.
Well, she wanted to move in after meeting them once.
Yeah.
Like, she goes over for it and she's like, can I please live here? Like, I need to be part of this.
Yeah. They can joke about her age and she doesn't, like, get completely bent out of shape.
Well, she has a realism about it. Like, she has an insecurity of it, obviously, because she feels old. But also, she kind of has to go, yeah, that's fair. Like, yeah, I'm kind of an old bitch at this point.
I love how they interact with each other. I love, like, how, there's conflict, as, people will have conflict. It can't all be, like, rosy and, like, just kumbaya all the time.
Yeah, but it was kumbaya quite a bit with them.
It was, but you know what I really liked was, like, she built such a good friendship with everybody, but they never, like, meddled in her business. If she's like, oh, I can't, I have to go do this, you guys go off. They're not like, be like, why? You have to come with us. We have to be clingy all the time. It's just like they, it just does feel like a family where, like, okay, they will eat together and they like they take turns cooking for each other. But if another person, they have their own business, it's like, cool, we'll see you later. It's never like...
Yeah, I felt like these relationships, between the housemates anyway, were really oddly mature relationships, considering that it's all about college kids, right? Like, she's the oldest one, she's in her 30s, everyone else is in their early 20s, they're college kids. I mean, even younger than that, I think. Marin is like barely 20 years old, I think, at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
But they keep handling the situations with each other in kind of a mature way. Like, the way that they dissolve conflict, the way that they kind of interact with each other and are honest with each other is shockingly mature.
Yeah.
Even though they're a bunch of goofballs who aren't mature a lot of the time, when they're sitting around drinking beer and slapping each other in the back of the head and just kind of being goofy. But when it comes down to, like, real things, they handled every situation. Every time they put a situation in front of them, they kind of handled it in a way that was like, well, that feels real. That feels how adults make decisions.
Yeah. I also loved how, like, essentially, in the beginning, like, Kina was very embarrassed with her situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so, like, nice that, like, she didn't have the intention of confiding in Sayako. But when Sayako found out, she's like, no, I have to go with you. We are in it together now because I know. And then they go, and she's just so, like, again, sincere with her, like, friendship. And then they become, like, the best of friends. Like more so than the other, housemates.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they're all, like, pretty much all best friends. But, like, she goes to Kina, and Kina, like, they go out drinking on their own, and stuff. And I love how they handled it. It was never, like, any real rivalry. There wasn't any pettiness. There wasn't anyone in the corner scheming. It was just so nice.
But I think these characters that's why they felt so real. They made decisions with each other that felt like decisions you would make. Like, I can totally see other shows taking this weird love triangle that didn't exist on screen for very long between Sayako, Taku, and Kina, and really making a meal out of it. And, she sees Taku and Sayako, like, in the corner together, and then she gives them daggers, and then she tries to, like, figure out if they're dating, and then she tries to drive a wedge between them, and then she poisons their pet rabbit, and then all of a sudden someone's hanging dead fish outside the door. I'm going off on a tangent, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they handled it like she was definitely jealous. Like, when Kina saw them interacting, because she liked Taku, but she also hadn't told him yet. Really, right? When she first clocked it.
So it's weird because she didn't really like Taku. She admitted later after her guy.
Yeah, after the boyfriend, the douchebag.
Yeah, that whole situation, like, she admitted that she didn't really like Taku. She didn't want to date him at all, but she wanted to keep him in her back pocket because she liked how it felt to be liked.
Yeah, but that is still jealousy when she sees this other woman come in and is pulling his affection and, like, they certainly played it at the top as, oh, wait a minute. No. I may want that. And again, maybe she wasn't wanting it for the right reasons, but there was definitely a little bit of a rivalry. But instead of going down this melodramatic, overly complicated, cartoony path, we saw people behave like you would expect college kids to behave, kind of, where she kind of made her overture at him, and then he didn't really pick up what she was putting down, and then he finally did, and she's like, listen, too late, bro.
Oh my God.
Like, it's like, no, boys are dumb.
That is like so, like, it hit so close to home. And I actually tell this story all the time because, and I don't know, maybe at this point, this episode will be listened to, and then my friend will be like, don't talk shit about me.
Oh boy, I know where this is going.
Oh my God. So I have this best friend that I've known since kindergarten. And during college, she was working at this CD store.
Boy, you're going to go into the real details, huh? All right, go for it.
Anyway, so her coworker had a crush on her. And, and at first she was like, oh yeah, I think I could date him, And he was just playing that, like, let's be friends card and then get to know each other. And it just took him so long, like months and months and months of just being friends and, like, going and hanging out. And she was like, he's not making a move. I'm over it. I'm so done. Like, I was ready to date him, and now I'm bored and I don't like him anymore. And so by the time he does confess to her, she's like, no, thank you. You've passed your prime.
But you know what? I mean, that story is very relevant in this show because of the kind of shit or get off the pot with Taku here.
Yeah.
But also, there is a main thing that I think is a very universal thing. And this is my opinion. If you don't agree, that's fine. But there is a universal truth to me, which is women like to hint. Women like to lay hints. And men are dumb as dog shit. So those two things aren't very compatible when young people are trying to find love. Because the women are like laying the hints. And the men are just like, oh? Ook, ook, ook. Like, they got no fucking clue what's going on. So it doesn't always mean the person that you're crushing on or person that's crushing on you'll end up with. And that's what I thought was so refreshing here, is that no one really ends up with the person they thought they'd end up with if you would have asked them at, like, episode 1 necessarily.
Yeah. But I think that's why it's so good, is, like, they had a kind of, like, that weird tingling feeling, Sayako, like, when she first senses that Taku has feelings for Kina, like, because every so often she would be like, what am I thinking? Of course he doesn't like me. But then she kind of, like, wants those little, like, things that he says to mean something more than it really meant, right? And then, of course, like, Taku also kind of felt a little off, when, like, he saw that Sayako had a crush on Marin's dad. But then they truly rooted for each other. They truly were good friends, and they wanted to help each other get to their crush. And I enjoy that so much, because there's so many dramas. They're so, like, backstabby and so jealousy and, like, but it, like, to the point where that, like, people get so jealous that they would just, like, start screaming and fly off the handles, and it's just, like, it gives me a headache when that jealousy is so, like, ramped up. So I understand jealousy, right? And you just kind of have that feeling, but do I feel like you need to, like, freak out every single time? It just feels tiring. So when jealousy is like that, it just feels like, why am I bothering with that? But, like, it's just refreshing to watch this, where you kind of have that kind of, like, tingle of a envy rather than jealousy, but then truly want the best for their friend, because that's what they are. They're friends. and they don't feel entitled to each other, you know.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that it's the entitlement and the ownership you have over someone you're crushing on. So I have a crush on you. Therefore, everything you do can make me a raving psychopath. And you're like, yeah, but I haven't agreed to date you yet. We aren't a thing yet. Just because you have a crush on me, and another girl also has a crush on me, or another guy, like whatever dynamic we're talking about, you don't get me just because you like me. And you're not allowed to go crazy on me. Like, how many shows do we watch where, you know, someone likes someone else and then they're not returning their affection, or they have someone else, and then all of a sudden this character's just going off on them, and you're like, who the fuck are you? Like, who are you in my life to lecture me about what I'm doing? Until you have basically come over and said, hey, can we be a thing? Are we a thing? And I say, yeah, we're a thing. You don't get access to all of me that way. There's no right. You can feel the pangs, which we got to see in the show. Like, they showed the pangs, but then she had to get real and go, oh, well, if that's what he wants, I'm not entitled to his emotions. And the same thing with him, where he, like, felt those pangs and go, oh, I kind of wish that was me, but it's not me, and I haven't gone after it, so all I can do is be supportive to my friend. Like, she's not your enemy now, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's what I think I mean by mature, is that it just didn't feel like, you know what, this really felt like it was written by adults that understood adult emotions. I feel like sometimes we watch things and I'm like, was this written by a high schooler? Like, you have like a high school, middle school understanding of human emotions. But this one really felt like it was written by adults. And I think that's why it felt so full and rich and real.
Yeah. I also really like how Marin handled Sayako rejecting her dad. In the beginning, when, like, Sayako thought she was going on dates with Marin's dad, and then Marin's like, you did this, and you, like, messed things up. And she's like, I love you, but I don't feel comfortable, like, handing Sayako to you because you don't deserve her.
She was saying this to her dad.
Yes. So then the second time, when her dad was really putting the effort into pursuing Sayako, and Sayako, you know, still has feelings for Taku and rejects Marin's dad, Marin realizes she can't be mad at somebody because she doesn't love her dad or who she wants Sayako to be in love with, right? But then, of course, she feels very offended and, like, sorry for her dad. Mm-hmm. But she knows that she has no right to just, like, go off on Sayako. So she takes that time. She's like, I'm going to go spend some time living at home because I'm mad that you didn't get chosen, to her dad, right? But also I'm worried that I'm going to say mean things to Sayako, and Sayako doesn't deserve that.
Well, it's like two things can be true at the same time. She can have a friendship with Sayako and also love her dad.
Exactly.
And she doesn't have to choose one over the other, but she's allowed to have complex feelings about it.
Yes. But she so maturely handles that situation that I'm just like...
Well, she takes the time and actually processes it and understands it from both positions and goes, you know what? It's, again, I'm not entitled to someone else's emotions feeling the way I want them to feel, even though it's not directed at her, it's directed at her dad. But you don't get to dictate how other people feel. And so she does, admittedly, has to take some time away, process, spend some time, and then come back and go to Sayako and go, we're good now. Like it's just...
But she didn't even have to say those words.
No, absolutely. That's what was so great about that moment.
Yeah.
Like, they both knew, because Sayako also knew that was going to be a little complicated, where it's like, I know you really want your dad to find someone, and she was pretty gung-ho for it.
Yeah.
At the beginning, and then it just kind of trailed off, and she just didn't have those deep feelings for him. She knew that rejecting the dad would affect the daughter. Of course she did.
Yeah.
So everyone just goes, hey, sometimes life gets a little messy. And instead of making it messier with shitty decisions and being an asshole to everyone, how about we process it and figure it out? And because I still want you to be my friend.
Like, they all look out for each other, you know, and they all, like, understand that, like, when you're going through emotions, they know to give you space.
Absolutely. I think they all were good for each other.
Yeah.
Like, they all worked together. Have you ever... I'm struggling to think of another show where the top 6 or 7 characters I all really, really enjoyed. Where I like all of the interaction. I'm talking mostly the housemates.
Yeah.
The dad kind of got on my nerves a little bit every once in a while. But the housemates themselves, I liked all the interactions. I liked the friendship between them, between the different pairings. Anytime a different pairing was paired up with someone else, I found myself going, there's no character in here that I just wish wasn't in the show.
Yeah. I actually liked the dad up until he decided to tell Sayako about Taku's business. I don't think it was his place to. And then also pursuing Sayako, like, after Taku left. It almost, like, and Taku, like, calls him out. It's like, you just want me to leave so you can pursue her again. And then, like, he's like, no, that's not what I want, and then proceeds to do it.
Totally does it.
Yeah, so I'm just like, yeah, that's when his character became, like, for me. But for the most part, I like all the characters. I actually loved when you find out that Sumika had a crush on Kanta, right? And then, like, Kanta dates that other girl, and Sumika is, like, upset, and they all, like, go and like, comfort her, but in such a, like, you know, you do you, we're just gonna sit here and chill with you. And it just felt so nice because I feel like a lot of times we have all these, like, friends that just want to give you advice.
Yeah, I was thinking that. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Where sometimes you just don't want the advice. You just want to be able to sit there and, like, cry or, like, badmouth that person, even though we all know that none of them, like, think badly about that person.
Well, she didn't think badly about him either.
Yeah.
Like, she's just like, oh, he's such an idiot, and he's stupid, and I hate him, and he's got an ugly face and a big nose. And they're all like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she just needed to vent. She just needed to get that off her chest, because she also knew, like, she wasn't really clear with her emotions to him. She never came out and said it. And so, like, it was really hurtful what he was doing, but he wasn't doing it intentionally. He was oblivious. But she's allowed to think he's an asshole for a little bit.
Yeah. But yet again, she, like, understands that it's like she can't pressure her own feelings onto him.
Yeah.
You know, so that when everyone found out that he's dating this girl, it's not that she went and, like, yelled at her and was like, how could you do this to me? You know, stuff. It's just something you got to deal with it on your own. And then you have your friends, your support group, to, you know, be there for you and comfort you and just sit on the beach with you. But what I love the most is when Kanta put it in the group chat, Rio, like, when Kanta came home, Rio, like, smacked him in the head and was like, you are too oblivious. If you do this again, I'm going to kick you out.
Yeah, I was just like, listen, a step too far of being a dumbass. Like, no one's this stupid, man.
Yeah. And I love that. And, like, that, at that moment, I was like, Rio's my favorite. I want him in my life. I want him to be my best friend. And we're gonna, like, you know, like, I know that he's got my back. And then he's also gonna do my makeup because I'm really bad at doing makeup.
Oh, gosh. But I want to go back to, like, that scene on the beach where she's sitting there, where Sumika's sitting there and she's kind of just venting. And if you really look at that scene, everything she's saying about Kanta could also be true about her. Like, she's saying, oh, he's so oblivious. Oh, he's so stupid. Oh, he doesn't know anything. And it's like, but also she doesn't either. It's like she didn't know how to handle things. And so it's one of those scenes where, like, she knows exactly how ridiculous the words are coming out of her mouth, because she's not only saying truths about him, she's saying truths about herself. And it's just the therapy she needed to do in that moment to just get past it and And sometimes you just need to like curse a little bit. And not having anyone in that scene that was like out for themselves and was trying to like fix the situation or like meddle in a certain way or like give advice that was like, well, let me tell you about my wiseness. It's like, stop talking.
Yeah.
It's not what your friend needs right now. And they all knew what their friend needed in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with that moment with Rue. Like, he knew what his friend needed. His friend needed a wake-up call. And just like, dude.
Yeah. But what's so great about it is that Ryu could do that, and then Kanta's not gonna be like, what the fuck, man? Why did you hit me? That's so fucked up. And then they get into, like, some big-ass fight, and they're, like, hitting each other, and they're all bruised up, and it's just like, that's not necessary. It's like, you smacked me in the head, and then he said what he said, and he's like, really? I was stupid? Oh, yeah, I'm stupid.
Yeah.
But it was just, it's nice, you know, because he knew that, like, his friend's not going to randomly hit him for no reason, you know, and, like, these friendships are, like, amazing.
Well, it's what it means when you have a real friendship and you're looking across at someone who you know wouldn't have done that to you for no reason. Like, there's no ego here between them, so it's not like you're being unfair. It's kind of like one of those things where, like, I mean, this is like, ugh, I'm stretching for this one, okay. But it's kind of like when someone is trying to help you creatively and they give you a note. They give you a note creatively. And it's like, even if you don't agree with it, you have to start a question. If you trust them as a person in your life like that, there's a reason they're saying the thing they're saying. And it's not to be unfair to you. It's to help you get better. And so if you can put your ego aside and take that and get better, it's like, well, that's why that person is in my life, because I trust them in this way. Or you could just be offended and slap them back.
So I've noticed a lot of comments online about how they don't feel that Sayako and Taku have chemistry. And mainly they say that Michieda is not as good of an actor as Hirose Alice. I feel like, for me, this drama is like, their romance is rooted in reality. And I feel like the relationship is how, like, a functional relationship should be. And that's where I get the romance. I don't think that there was bad chemistry, I didn't think that there was a lack of chemistry between the two actors and then their characters. I just feel like, because for me at least, I feel like a romantic relationship should also have friendship. I think those are the ones that last the longest, when, like, you know, ultimately when you're best friends with your significant other.
I think the big reason people may feel like there's no chemistry or there's no romance in this show is that it doesn't really play by the same rules as most other dramas in the space. But I think what you're comparing is, you're like comparing a romantic comedy, like the overtopness of like the romance of a romantic comedy, to a kind of an indie film where the characters are going to be more grounded, more mature. And what we're used to seeing out of these dramas is love at first sight and infatuation and long gazing looks at each other across crowded rooms. It was the Taiwanese drama with the firefighters? Chinese drama.
Yeah.
Where it's like, let me look at her walk away for the 4th time this episode, and now I'm telling the audience how much I love her. Like, there wasn't that here. And so I feel like if you need that to feel the romance, this is not the show for you. Because they don't just, well, your term, they don't spoon feed it to you. They don't sit here and hold you and go, okay, here's what romance looks like. It's like, no, look how the two characters interact with each other. How they're always coming back to help each other. How they're always there and being the exact person you need in that moment. For both of them.
Yeah. And that's also where I come in with, I love the fact that Taku is Sayako's muse. Literally, in the big decisions in her life, she gets this epiphany over and over again through Taku.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that it's just like, because Taku, like, understands her. Even at the beginning is like, maybe it's just because he doesn't understand why she has such a hang-up of, like, going back to college. She just needs that little push. And even at the end where, like, she's, like, now got a job and all her friends are like, we're so happy for you. You finally got a job. Congratulations. And everyone's so happy for her for getting this job. And Taku's like, really? But that's not what you want. Like, are you sure that's what you want? Because it doesn't seem like you. Because he's the one that actually knows her the best. And has, like, been with her and understands her. And, you know, before when they were friends has, like, you know, spent time with her and really, like, caring for her. To understand that that's not what she wants, is to work at some big company that, like, will never really listen to her ideas.
Well, in that moment, she was so focused on getting to join the club. Like, she was just like, oh man, like, a big club wants me. And his opinion was, why on earth would you want to join that club? Yeah. You know, and it was like, that never occurred to her that she might not want to join the club.
Yeah.
And I think he lights a fire underneath her. And for her character is so strong and strong-willed. Like, even with her parents don't want to tell her what to do. Her roommates don't want to tell her what to do. No one is telling me what to do, except he can.
Yeah.
He can go, hey, you know, you're going to do what you do, but why? And she trusts it to go, oh, he's not just being a jerk. Like, he's the one person who can see the real me.
And also, he's the one person that has, like, believed in her from the beginning. He believed in her that she could go back to college. He believed in her that she had the talent to do what she wanted to do. And even though in, like, the totally wrong words, he's like, it's too early for you to think that you're not talented. Right? That's because he sees so much in her from the beginning that he's, like, kind of upset that she doesn't also see it and doesn't believe in it. You know, and she's always had the kind of low self-esteem and, like, you know, self-consciousness.
Well, especially when it comes to intelligence, like the college brain, you know? Like, she always has been that person that didn't get into school, that kind of failed and hasn't made enough of herself yet. I mean, that's kind of what she says at the very beginning. Like, she didn't want to settle to just run her parents' store and get married and have babies and live in a small town. Like, settling scared her. So it's always been kind of in the back of her mind, like, oh, failure means settling for something other than what I want. And so that was, like, one of her big insecurities.
And that's the thing. That's why I like their relationship so much, is because he's always considered her, like, always considered what she wanted. Like, even up until, like, the breakup, like, he was ready to propose to her and then realized, if I propose to her, she's going to be so wrapped up in their relationship that yet again, she's going to overlook herself. And I'm not saying their breakup was, like, a good idea, because there are always ways to get around that. You know, when you want to work on, you know, on your future together, like, it doesn't mean breakup, but I understood where he was coming from.
Yeah, and it's done with the right intentions, probably the wrong execution. But as we said at the beginning, like, these are college kids. They're not always going to make the right choice in life. I mean, he's 22 years old. Like, he's going to make the wrong call. But even when they made the wrong call, again, they find their way back to each other. Like, after all that time apart, and he comes running back into the room, and she immediately puts him to work on her project because she needs help, and he just falls in line with her, and he never once asks, wait, what are you doing? Why? What do I need to do this for? She's just like, hey, print this out and do this. And she's like, okay, I'm on it. Like, and they do that for each other over and over again. And that was like, again, it's a maturity of romance. Like, that's romantic. Like, to walk in the room and she's frazzled and he just walks in the room and there should be like, oh my God, you're here. Oh, and then all this sort of like weird romance stuff. And instead she's like, can you hand that to me? And he just drops everything, forgets everything he wanted to say to her.
And rolls his sleeves up and he's like, all right, what do you want me to do? I'm on it. It's like...
That's way more romantic than longing looks and I love you so much.
I mean, he's not a sweet talker, and he's not one of those, like, it's not one of those where it's, like, raining, and they have the umbrella, and it's slow motion, like, putting the umbrella over her head to, like, keep her from getting wet. But it is truly them, like, working on something together, and, like, they're in it with each other. Whatever hurdles that they have to jump through, they're gonna do it together.
You know what's one thing that just occurs to me? It's really easy to fall in love with someone who always says the right things. It's much more interesting to fall in love with someone who a lot of times says the wrong things, but is the right person for you and is in the right moment for you and supports you in the right way. And I think that's the delineation that I would take from shows where the romance is just oozing off the screen, versus this where you have to kind of understand that you're gonna say the wrong things to the person you love, but you can overcome it. And if you actually are invested in each other, just saying the wrong thing once or twice or 100 times doesn't really affect the kinship and the spirit and then even the romance that they had together.
Yeah.
People be bumbling.
Yeah. I say the wrong things all the time.
No. Not you. No, but I will say, I think my first reaction to some of the comments online is, I'm sorry, stupid people, that you don't understand romance, but that's not really actually fair. I do think it's a certain way that these types of shows have trained the audience to recognize romance, like the music cues and the longing looks, and like you say, the umbrella, you know, the back hugs, and just all that kind of stuff that we've been trained to recognize as romance. When it's missing, you do have to kind of put your phone down and really watch this show. Because if you're waiting for the music cue to tell you how to feel, it's not coming. If you want that kind of very classic, you know, strong man picks her up and walks her out of the burning fire, like that kind of stuff, it's not in this show. And it's just, but it's there still. And so I don't completely blame the audience on this one. I do think it has to do with just the way we've all been trained to watch some shows. Like when we watch a, you know, procedural, like we understand the vocabulary of a procedural the same that we understand the film vocabulary of a romantic show. And this one just flips it a little bit, which to me is refreshing and entertaining and so enjoyable, because I don't feel like I have to be told every minute, like, tense music now, feel happy. It's like, give me a break. Just let a scene play.
So I agree with you on that. But sometimes there are certain, like, dramas that they play those really good songs where you're like the soundtrack is just so good and you just keep listening to those songs, but you know that once they play that certain song, it's like, okay, now I'm supposed to feel this way. And if they play this song, then I'm like, oh yeah, now I'm supposed to be sad. Like, but then you're like, damn, these songs are so good.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know.
I get burnt out on the same song playing in every episode. It's just like, oh man, episode 25, we've now heard the romantic cue that's sung by the lead 47,000 times. Like, just play something else.
I get it. It's very melodramatic, but some, like, depending on the song, honestly, there's some songs that I'm just like, I can't get enough of.
But, like, it gets to, I mean, they were getting a little off track, but it gets to the point where, like, I can hum a certain song and you will know what drama it's from, because that's how, like the Pavlov dog response of, like, do 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 do, and then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't even have to think for a second.
The sad thing is, like, that is so dated. No one
that is listening to this was born when that show was on the air. But Mel knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Of course. It was, oh my God, this drama. I was crying.
Just say the name of it. Just say the name of it. We don't want to get into it.
It's called Sorry, I Love You.
Yeah. Well, we're not talking about Sorry, I Love You. We're talking about this drama, which I very much enjoyed.
Yes. Except for episode 9. That whole episode 9 is just
Yeah, we can pretend that episode doesn't exist, no?
I mean, yeah, it does exist. It's just literally it didn't need to exist, because at the end of episode 8 and then the top of episode 10, if you just put those together, it would flow.
Yeah, it was
perfectly.
Kind of a departure. It was weird.
Yeah. So episode 9 was such a throwaway episode with, like, it's just like break up and then they break up again. And it's just like, really, you think that she's not gonna, like, get her shit together if you guys don't break up? That's kind of weird. Like, I understand people always think, like, long distance relationships don't work. And I get it, like, some don't, because, life happens. But then I have a friend that spent, a little over a year, doing an internship here. And her boyfriend at the time, now husband, literally, like, they would just go, like, Zoom, like, through Zoom, and then they would work on their thing. They're not even, like, talking to each other, but they're just, like, it's as if they're in the same room.
Right.
And then she's doing her work projects and stuff, and he's doing his, like, homework from college, and it's just, like, if you make an effort is always the key. If you make an effort, it will work out.
I think for me, the double breakup is the problem. It was sort of like, she's like, we should break up, and then they kind of work through that, and then he's like, actually, no, but, like, we should break up. Like, to me, there was a really easy fix for that. Unfortunately, it gives them one less episode, and it does get rid of episode 9. But I don't know. I would have found it interesting if they would have gone through this really romantic episode 8, and where it just feels like they're closer than ever, and she turns around to him and she says, I think it would be best for both of us if we broke up. And he's stunned, and he's shocked, and he says, yeah, you're probably right. Because, like, that's the last thing I would have expected him to say, but both of them were coming from the exact same decision place, so it almost shows how in sync they are. Then I would have bought the return together a little more, or at least the pulling apart a little more. But the fact that it was kind of separated by this meandering episode, I didn't love it. I did think it was the weakest part. I don't think it ruined the show for me, but I kept thinking, there has to be a better way to execute this.
Yeah. I really do think that there was a better way to do that. I also thought, like, this weird, like, reintroducing the possibility of her and Marin's dad was kind of weird, because that ship had sailed.
So sailed.
And it just doesn't make sense to, like, go through it again, other than the fact that people just insist on having a love triangle as if that's an end-all be-all of, like, obstacle for relationship. It was too easy of a way to just write.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, let's just throw an extra, like, love triangle, even though it's just, again, the audience knows that that's not going to happen.
He was never a viable option for her again after the initial courtship. And so to go there, and even from his perspective, I stopped believing why he would want that relationship other than he just has no other prospects.
Yeah.
And he's, I'm an older guy and I need to, like, find someone, and there's just no one else in the whole world. Like, I don't know, the whole thing, I'm like, well, this is never going to happen. There's no tension here. There's no interest. It's just kind of like, again, we're stalling until we can get our couple back together.
Yeah. And then, like, him being at the airport at the same exact time as, like, when Sayako is sending the dad off. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely some issues with that. Also, the weird fight at that party with Taku and his dad. And it's just, there's just, like, random stuff that I'm like, okay, you're, like, running out of things to do in your allotted time.
Yeah, and it's weird because none of it really affects the outcome of the show, really. Like you said, like, you can cut episode 9, and it doesn't really change much for the end of the series. It just felt like a little bit of fluff that they needed because they had 10 episodes and not 9. You can't just turn to your financiers and go, oh, by the way, we're giving you one less than we thought.
Yeah.
But, there, again, I didn't think it ruined the show. That whole section, I just kept thinking, nah, there was a better way to do this. There was for sure a better way that was more honest to the characters.
I think her breakup was the one that needed to be gotten rid of rather than him breaking up with her. Like, I actually liked the fact that he was completely ready to propose, and then realizing that that was going to hinder her and breaking up with her. But the whole, like, the dad telling her about Taku's thing and then her breaking up with him, that was so unnecessary, and, like, that part didn't make sense. So for me, I would have cut that out.
I think you're right. I think there was, because she was pushing for him to go. Like, she was pushing for him to have this opportunity, and if his response is yeah, you're pushing me to have this opportunity, but we have to break up because you need to be pushed to your opportunity, and I can't do what you're doing for me to you if I'm in the picture right now. Yeah. Because you'll have one foot in, one foot out. And so having them both kind of break up just felt wrong. And I agree with you 100%. When you started that, I was like, is that really the right way to go? But I think you're absolutely right. I think it would have made it much more clear and concise. And again, it would have been about, her pushing him to a place that he needs to go, and him kind of pushing her back to a place she needs to go. And it was like equal,
Yeah.
It's a relationship.
Yeah. I know people were, like, upset that, like, they didn't have the communication. Like, their communication is actually pretty good.
It felt real because it doesn't... That's the other thing that, again, I think as audience members we're trained to just expect word vomit. Like, as soon as a character feels something, it comes out of their face. Or they hold it in an insane way.
Yeah.
And
they never talk to each other.
And then it just blows up, and it blows up everything. Where it felt like when you have a big life decision, I mean, you hear in the news about how, like, spouses will get cancer and not tell their significant other for a very long time because I need to process what that means first for myself before I bring in anyone. And now, oh my God, what does that mean for other people? So, like, you hear about that in real life. You hear about people who lose their jobs and then just pretend to go to work. And, you read about this stuff in real life. So it's like, doesn't feel far-fetched that they would take some process time and not communicate every bit of everything all the time. Or hold things in until they die.
But again, I want to reiterate that it was definitely not Maureen's dad's choice. It was not his decision to make. It was something like that Taku had to decide on his own.
Oh, when he told her, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was gross.
It was very gross.
And it was also gross because he does have a horse in the race, because he's still was interested in her. So it just felt, it was the one moment in the show that felt manipulative, and that someone was playing a little bit of a game. Even if he believed, when he said, no, I'm not interested in her anymore, even if he believed that, which I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's still like, you have to admit, bro, there's a little bit of a conflict of interest here for you to do this.
Yeah. It's just gross. It's just not, again, it's not his place. It also makes me, I'm like, I get it, like, opportunities are hard to come by, but literally you're telling me that not taking a job in Switzerland, or, you know, an internship or whatever it was, apprenticeship, that like one opportunity is like the end all be all. Like, if it's like, I know it's like a good opportunity, but that's saying like, oh, those who don't have that opportunity won't have, you know, a future, which is like really weird.
Everyone knows you never pass up an opportunity to go to Switzerland. It's a wonderful place. You just don't say no to Switzerland. If Switzerland wants you, you freaking go.
I get it. Like, it's great opportunity, you know, to further your career. I get that. I really do. It's just also like, there are other opportunities.
I don't think you're hearing me. It's Switzerland. It's beautiful.
Yes, I've been there too. I also really like Switzerland, but also I'm sure he would have been fine, considering he wins like competitions all over the place.
Ugh, he'd end up in frickin' Germany or something. Ugh.
Stop.
I love Germany.
Germany was cool too.
No, they're great. I'm joking. But I totally think those moments could have been executed better. But what I was happy for is that it did feel like both those moments were rather small. Like, it didn't take... The thing that annoys me is when the choice a drama makes has reverberations through the whole show, and now you can't see past it. Whereas it felt like that moment, they needed a way for her to find out about him going to Switzerland, and they didn't obviously want him to tell her, and so they contrived another way. You know, they needed them to break up so he could go to Switzerland, and they contrived this way. It wasn't effective. It wasn't the best way to do it. But once you get past the moment, then you can get back on track. And the ending, I think, you know, was satisfying.
I really liked the ending in terms of how, you know, he showed up and immediately just got to work on and helping her do her project.
It was the best.
It was the best way to end it. Yeah, everything leading up to that part, you know.
Yeah, they floundered a little bit at the end, but I do think, like...
I also like the fact that he's like, I tried to propose you the first time, it didn't work out. And I tried to propose to you a second time, and then I see you guys at the airport. So I think the third time's a charm. And she's like, oh, no. I have way more to do with my life.
Yeah, I don't got time for your ring.
Yeah, no, but then he was like, oh, okay. And then he was gonna, like, put away the ring or throw it away or whatever. And she's like, no. I did not fucking say throw away the ring. Put it on my finger. It's just we're not gonna get married, like, right away. Which I love. Like,
yeah, no, it was like, really charming.
Yeah. And I just like that, like, she has that. And, I mean, she literally had to learn it from him to really, like, consider what she wants in life, you know, but like she's reached a point that she's like, yeah, I know how to speak my mind now, and I'm confident of like the things that I want to do, and I just really like that character arc for her, you know, and the fact that he's just her muse, which is amazing to me. So for me, I think this drama is in the buffet line. I want to rate it Drinks on a Pool Deck, because I really did enjoy it, and the characters are really good. But I do think the double breakup was just really off, and there are just some things that were off about it, and maybe I'm being a little harsh, but yeah, it's in the buffet line for me.
I think for me, this is Drinks on a Pool Deck, and I think that is just because, despite the few flaws that we pointed out, I just really enjoyed it from beginning to end. That I was with them. I was on the ride. And I kind of liked how they subverted all the norms. All the stuff we kind of are expected to see, or the pitfalls, they just kind of subverted them and went around them and turned them on their head in a nice, subtle way. I didn't say this during our main, portion of the podcast, but like, how glad I was that there were no like cops and crimes and procedurals. It was just about humans being humans, which is what these Japanese dramas do so well, is just dig into what makes people and just analyzing, and it's just a lot of it's poetry in an interesting way. So I have to give them the credit where the credit is due. Because I just found myself not looking at my phone, just enjoying the whole show. So drinks on a pool deck for me.
So for this week, I think I want to recommend a Chinese web novel. It is called Tattoo, or Ziqing, which is written by Buwen Sanjiu. And it's just about two guys that kind of fall in love, and one's more reserved and the other very outspoken and very charming and just a little like off the beaten path, and also like just carefree and not judgmental. And like when problems kind of arise, like he just kind of like, well, let's solve the problem. There's nothing to worry about. And it's just really refreshing. I really liked the relationship build between the two main couples. I liked the kind of interesting background of like the tattooing, because two of the characters in the book are tattoo artists. And after reading it, it kind of led me to get my tattoo. So it's just like, I really enjoyed this book. It's probably one of my favorite BL web novels that I've read. So it's just very grounded and down to earth. Humans having human relationships. So I recommend that. And that is it for us this week. Thanks for listening.
And make sure to check out us on Instagram at drama_means_podcast, where we post all sorts of little shorts and clips and quotes and recommendations and all sorts of stuff. And you can find the Drama Means scale there. Anything that you're not finding with the podcast, that's where it'll be.
Yes, and also our YouTube channel, which we post special episodes on that.
Yeah, also Drama Means short, so if you can't get enough of us, you get to see us in the flesh on YouTube doing stupid little stuff. So come on, join us there too.